So I never looked for a promotion. I never looked to become the president of this MGA. I certainly didn't look to become the CEO of Hub Northeast. It was always this kind of head down approach, work hard, treat people well, and, contribute to the organization's success. And that's really been, that's been the recipe for, what I would call my own success.
It's time! Work, play, evolve!
I want to connect the listeners to the best of the best. Welcome to the Evolved Broker Podcast. I'm your host, Pat Costello, the co-founder and principal at Evolve MGA. Our mission for the podcast is to bring the insurance industry the best of the best. Today, I have the pleasure of interviewing one of the most powerful individuals in the insurance brokerage world. My guest today is the president and CEO of Hub International, Marc Cohen. Hub is the largest privately owned brokerage in the world. In general, they're the fifth largest brokerage in the world, and they have over 13,000 employees. They are a leading full-service global insurance broker providing property and casualty, life and health, employee benefits, investment, and risk management products and services from offices located throughout North America. Marc started his career at Walter Kaye Associates in 1988. In 2004, Marc was featured in Business Insurance Magazine's 40 Under 40 segment. He is a self-described workhorse and is a prime example of starting at the bottom of an organization, becoming undeniably successful at each rank he was promoted to, and leading the organization by example. Marc and I discussed his early life growing up in New York, his introduction to the insurance industry, continuously climbing the ranks of a company experiencing massive growth, advice for new Hub employees, ideal acquisition targets, and his vision for the future of Hub. Without further ado, here's Marc. Mr. Marc Cohen, I cannot thank you enough for being here with me today on the Evolve Broker Podcast. How are you?
I'm doing great. Good to see you, Patrick.
Are you in New York at the moment?
I am in my remote working space here in New York, and I've been here for I guess now for about 4 months.
Nice. I know we're in very odd times, but again, thank you so much for sitting down with me today. I have to say, in all the research that I did on you, I consistently heard people say, this guy Marc Cohen is a hard-nosed, detail-oriented workhorse of a CEO, and he spent time in multiple parts of the industry. This guy started at the bottom of the totem pole and consistently proved to his peers and his colleagues that he was someone who deserved to climb through the ranks. And so I'm super excited to chat with you today. I have 3 major goals I'm hoping we can accomplish today. I'm hoping we can get the audience of insurance professionals out there that are listening to be more familiar with you on a personal level, because I know a lot of folks hear your name, but I'm sure a lot of folks have not heard your story. I want to hear about your journey, starting at an entry-level position, going all the way up to the top of a company, and sharing that with us and sharing any insight that you give to someone that has a similar dream to make that climb. And then finally, would love to discuss Hub at the current moment, the company culture, your vision for the future. So if all that sounds good, let's just kick things off. And if you could fill us in on your personal background, where you're from originally and where you grew up, I think that would be an excellent place to start.
That sounds terrific. So first, what I'd like to say is it's interesting that you refer to me as a workhorse. I have heard that before, where I've been compared to others who are considered show horses, and I was the workhorse. So I'm not sure if that's a compliment, an insult, or somewhere in between, but it is true. I am a workhorse, and if any of your listeners are from the 80s and they remember the TV show, what was it? Welcome Back, Kotter.
Okay.
They were sweat hogs. They were gym rats. And
all right.
That's basically what I've always been kind of called. So I don't know. I take it as a compliment. So I appreciate you. I appreciate you starting off that way. So let me tell you a little bit about myself.
Cool.
So again, CEO of Hub International. Grew up on Long Island in New York, a town called Oceanside, which is it's probably 15 miles or so from the Atlantic Ocean. Spent most of my weekends and childhood around the water, whether it was oceans or bays, fishing. My father and I were both avid fishermen growing up. I still am, and now love to fish with my son. And graduated high school in 84 and went off to Albany State, where I went as a student athlete and played soccer for Albany for my 4 years of college, and that was a great experience. And
nice.
And if you grew up in the 80s in the New York region, you really only had kind of one thought as you were graduating college, and that was you were going to Wall Street. I mean, that was the path. I mean, they've made movies about that Wall Street in the 80s and the lure and the attraction of the young college kids to get out of school and to eventually end up on Wall Street. So that's where I thought my path was going to be. And I remember having the conversation with my father when I graduated school, and we sat down at the dinner table, and he said, "Okay, so where we going, Marc? What's the plan?" And I said, "Well, I thought it was obvious. I'm going to Wall Street. I mean, that's where everyone's going.
Right.
That's where my friends are going. That's where the money is. That's where the excitement is." And my father, who was a high school teacher, very kind of conservative man, said to me, "You're not going to Wall Street. I don't like it. I don't want you any part of it. Get a job doing something that's more secure."
Okay.
And I kind of looked at him and I said, "Well, that's not the plan." And he said, "That is the plan." And in those days, very different than today, when your father or your mother said something to you, it was the end of the discussion. So that was it. Wall Street was out. I had to go look for a job, had an opportunity to interview at an insurance agency in the heart of New York City called Walter Kaye Associates. It was a family-owned regional broker. And like many people who get into the insurance business, was not the plan. Did not think I was going to be there for the rest of my career, but as things turned out, that's exactly what happened. So I took the job. It was an administrative assistant making $19,000, and really started literally at the bottom of the organization. So auto ID cards, certificates of insurance, copies, you name it. I was the gopher boy, and I was doing it. And my goal was every day to just learn something and prove that I was worthy of the next position without ever really obsessing over what that next position was going to be. And I remember even just kind of working my way through the company in the early days, trying to become technical, trying to understand this new language called insurance and everything about it. Never really thought it would actually click in. And then, of course, like for many of us, it finally did. And I started to get promoted from kind of administrative assistant to assistant account executive to account executive. Then I was fortunate enough to spend some time in different parts of the organization, and got into marketing and to claims and to production and really.
So, Marc, real quick, let me stop you for a second. So when you got into the industry, it sounds like you didn't have any family members that were in insurance. Is that correct? Did you find out about the open position at the agency, from a newspaper ad, or is there a connection that got you in the industry that you're like, okay, or was it more of like a job of like, this is a place that would hire me that seems available? How did that come about?
Yeah, so oddly enough, I was playing basketball down at the park, and one of the guys I knew from high school said, hey, listen, they're interviewing at this insurance brokerage firm I just joined up. You might want to consider going in and
Cool.
taking the interview and see what they have to say. And of course, I fought it because who wanted to go into insurance? It wasn't really what you thought about when you were in college. And I went in for the interview. I found it intriguing. What I liked most was, frankly, the people that interviewed me. And I ended up taking the job, and that's how it all, that's really how it all began. And then, as I said, very fortunate to be able to work in different areas of the business and really start to learn and build a foundation for the rest of my career. And I guess the lucky break came, maybe it was 5 or 6 years later. The company wanted to start an MGA within the organization, manager general agent.
Okay.
And principals of the firm came to me and said, hey, Marc, you know what? We're thinking about starting this MGA. We want to create proprietary product, and we want to have distribution through unaffiliated, insurance brokers. And we think you're the perfect guy. I don't know how they came to that conclusion. They really didn't even know what an MGA was, but I think they were checking a box as much as anything else. And of course, I took the job because, you wouldn't dare say no to them. So I took the job and I came in every day and really had no idea what I was supposed to be doing. No one could explain to me. They were a retail brokerage operation. And I sat there for what seemed like weeks and months. And finally I said, well, if I don't figure this out pretty quickly, I'm going to be looking for a job soon. So I went out and I spoke to insurance companies, and I spoke to brokers, and I spoke to MGAs, and I kind of figured out what an MGA was all about. And then just fast forward maybe 7 or 8 years, we created 25 proprietary insurance products. We were doing business with 700 independent brokers in the tri-state area, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut.
Wow.
And we got ranked as one of the top 10 largest MGAs in the country by Business Insurance. So we took really what was just an idea and put a lot of hard work and grit into understanding what was, what we believed was a void in the marketplace, and started to create product and service. And independent insurance brokers really took to the model. And from there, it was history. Was very fortunate, hired some amazing people who were able to really carry out on the strategies that we had put forth. And today that MGA is still operating under the Hub umbrella, and is still one of the largest MGAs in the country, and is probably triple the size of it was when I left it.
That's amazing. So Marc, as you transition to the MGA side of things, did you have any specific mentors that were giving you advice along the way of, maybe you should go this route, or you should, implement this strategy in your day-to-day work habits? Was there anyone that was giving you advice?
Yeah, I would say not so much on the MGA side. The mentorship really came as I transitioned back into the retail side of the business.
Got it.
But I would say more than any one single mentor, I was very fortunate to really work with some fantastic people that, I always believed that I was just, I became almost like a sponge to the different impressions that people had made on me, and the influences that people, were able to impact me with. And that really created, or helped to create, the Marc Cohen kind of brand, if there's such a thing. And I'm very fortunate, and and I really believe that people took the time to, show confidence and to be there when I needed someone to really just kind of answer that question of, am I doing the right thing? Is this all going in the right direction? And so we were purchased by Hub in 2001.
Okay.
Right, that regional broker that I worked for. So in 2001, we were purchased by Hub. I was, call it middle management or senior management, running that MGA.
Yep.
And 3 years into Hub, I was asked by the founding CEO of Hub to take over the entire region. And that's when I ran Hub Northeast, which included retail operations, the wholesale operations, the MGA, the whole kind of thing. And that was really a huge kind of compliment. And something that I was, extremely appreciative of getting that opportunity. And the reality is this, I mean, people ask me all the time, is like, Marc, what kind of advice would you give? Would you give younger folks that are coming into the business? I never looked past my current job that I had. I was really, even from the day that I was the unit assistant, really, doing the lowest level work. Did I want more? I absolutely did, but I was always more about the process. Like work hard, put your head down, right? And good things will happen. Outcomes will show themselves. And so I never looked for a promotion. I never looked to become the president of this MGA. I certainly didn't look to become the CEO of Hub Northeast. It was always this kind of head down approach, work hard, treat people well, and, contribute to the organization's success. And that's really been, that's been the recipe for, what I would call my own success through my career is, don't work every day for, what the end goal is or what the prize is. I think if you live for the prize, you miss out on a lot, of the journey, that it takes to successfully attain that prize. So that would kind of be my guidance or my advice. But so I was fortunate enough to get that position as the CEO of Hub Northeast, and did that for about 10 years. Grew the region from 65 million to a little bit over $200 million of revenue in that time, both organically and through acquisitions. And then was asked to run the eastern portion of the United States for Hub, and I did that. And that was Florida up to Maine. And then in 2016, the founding CEO came to me and said, "Hey, listen, I'm already thinking about my own succession, and the board would like to consider you, and I would like to consider you for the CEO of Hub."
Wow!
And I got to tell you, there was no one. I don't think no one was any more surprised than I was. I mean, like I said, it was not on my radar. It was not what I was looking to become. I was very happy with the job I was doing. Frankly, as I said, it caught me by surprise. And my response to the CEO, Marty Hughes, was, "Well, why don't you give me some time to think about it and come back to you with a plan and let you know what my vision is for the organization for the next 5, 10, 15 years. Let me explain to you, where I see the industry going. Let me explain where I think, the runway exists, not only for the business, but for our people. How will technology, how will digital all play into the future of this industry, into our organization? And then if there's alignment, we'll probably both at that time think it's the right decision." And it took me about 2 months to put together a plan. And I knew if I would have said yes at that initial meeting, it would have been all about the business card, or it would have been about the ego.
Yeah.
And anyone who knows me well knows I'm nothing about either of those. So I wanted to come up with a plan. I wanted to explain where I saw Hub succeeding in the future. And that's what I did.
So Marc, did you ever have a personal relationship with Marty prior to him coming to you and asking you to take this job? Or was it, your body of work that really spoke for itself to make him feel comfortable with passing the baton like that? Because that's obviously a huge move.
Yeah, that's a great question. So Marty and I had a relationship. I mean, Marty was my boss. We obviously we got along well, but we didn't have a social relationship, and we didn't have a relationship that, that went back to the time when Walter Kaye Associates sold the business to Hub. I think he looked at the body of work. I think he looked at the alignment that I was able to achieve amongst the people that worked within, the Hub Northeast region to get us on one page, to get us moving in direction. And I think that, in the end, he saw that because of my background and the fact that I had worked at just about every job in the industry, and I had started at the bottom, that I would be able to relate to people across the entire organization. And, so when I'm talking about, raises or COVID strategies or whatever it might be, I could talk from strategy. I know what it's like to get a 2% raise. I know what it's like to get no raise. I know what it's like to work long hours and to, sometimes not be recognized for it. So I think that he saw that two things. One, that I could identify with people across the entire enterprise, but at the same time, I think he also looked at the body of work and saw that I had the ability to be strategic and operational at the same time. And then also, of course, execute on a strategy.
That's awesome. So it sounds like hard work has really been a theme throughout your whole career. If someone on the outside was looking in and they wanted to know what a typical work day looked like for Marc Cohen, what does that look like? When you wake up, and you put in work and all the way to when you go to sleep. What are the details of how that day looks? Yeah,
sure. So I think one of the great things about my job is no 2 days ever really look the same. So I wouldn't say I have a typical work day. Maybe the way I take that question, Patrick, if it's okay with you, is the difference between my day as the CEO as opposed to my day running a region and, controlling a P&L of a hub.
That'd be perfect.
Yeah. So when I was running the Northeast, I would come into the office. I'm a big list guy. I would have a list of like 20 things. And for those of you that are also list people, there's no better feeling in the world than crossing out something on the list.
Totally.
It's crazy the way that works, but the simple motion of crossing out something gives you so much joy. Well, anyhow, so when I was running the Northeast, I had my list of 20, 25 different things. And, they were items that, they were very client kind of, centric type stuff. So it is, this client has a claim. We got to get in touch with Travelers, Chubb, Hartford, whoever it is, CNA, Zurich, whoever it is. We got to get in touch with them. We got to, walk them through it. We got to try to work this out. Or this client's renewal is coming due. We got to make sure that we're presenting the business owner in the best possible light. So it was very transactional, where the list kind of flipped every day, 2 days, 3 days, where today, much different. The list almost never flips. What I do today is much more on a macro kind of visionary, basis. So there's very little crossing out of things. You never really are done with something. What is the strategy for Canada in 2021? Or, what are the runway opportunities that we want to invest in over the next 3 years? You never really get rid of those, those topics. They just continue to evolve and get larger, and they take different directions. And that's really the biggest change, I'd say, in my career, is going from a very much of a daily transactional, a lot of client contact, to much more macro, visionary, strategic, and they're two very different, disciplines and different skill sets that you need to have. And, I would say that's one of the things that I didn't know going into the job, right? I didn't know that it goes from this transactional day to day to much more of a large picture strategic. You kind of have an idea, but until you're sitting in the seat, you just really never know how that all kind of plays itself out. And, one of the things that I talk about often to, the organization is we're building a company. What we're building is for sustained success, right? We're not looking to live quarter by quarter, month by month. Are we competitive? We're as competitive as anyone to make sure that we are delivering on the financial results that, that we set for ourselves. Our bar is very high, but it's our bar. As an organization, we set the bar high. So, it's a lot of that kind of being competitive, but at the same time, also understanding that what we're building is for sustained success. We want to make sure that, the next generation of hub leaders, comes forward onto a foundation that puts them in position to succeed, and then they can move the company forward after us.
Mm-hmm. There's no doubt you guys have had tremendous growth in the last couple decades. From a personal or professional standpoint, Marc, is there any daily rituals or habits beyond to-do lists that you make sure to do every day, whether it's working out or meditating or anything that kind of just makes sure you're firing on all cylinders to perform at your best?
Yeah, good question. So I don't think there's anything that I do religiously. The only thing I do religiously is wake up every morning, right?
Got it.
When that ceases to happen, I've got other issues. So I get up around 5 o'clock in the morning,
Okay.
And I start working.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm working. I start my day between 5:30.
Mm-hmm.
I end my day between 9:30, in the evening. And I'm like we started the conversation. I'm a bit of a workhorse. I'm a bit of a gym rat.
Totally.
I enjoy it. I do it because I love it. And when I'm not doing it, I'm with my family, my children. I've got great relationships with my 3 kids and my wife. And when I'm looking to escape, it's usually getting on a boat and going fishing. My son has grown to be an avid fisherman like I am. And so we spend a lot of time out on the water. And I would say that's the one true place that I get to clear my head and just relax. But as far as, daily rituals, I exercise, but I don't do it kind of in a routine. I can, go a week doing it 2 or 3 times in that week. And then, I won't do it again for another couple of weeks. No, I would say, nothing really to speak of.
Yeah. So we touched briefly on mentors, Marc. Is there any major lessons that you learned from a specific mentor that was instrumental in your career path, going from the different ranks within Hub? Is there any lesson that you received that was, monumental and, ensuring your success? Anything like that occurred?
Yeah. Well, the founding CEO of Hub, Marty Hughes. I mean, one of the really great things about Marty, and I think just what attracted so many people to him, was he had such a high standard of integrity. Yeah. And is really just a very decent, gentleman. And he's a great businessman and someone that, that I think, frankly, is just very easy to look up to from a character standpoint. And, so like I said before, I like to think that I've become kind of a product of the different influences of the people that I've had a chance to work with and work for. Certainly Marty Hughes, from a character standpoint, is just as good of a person as I think you could find. Earlier in my career, there were some, sales people that were, just, iconic type of rainmakers that I had a chance to work with in New York. Howard Kaye comes to mind from the Walter Kaye Associates days. And then just real professional leadership of Bruce Goodhart was someone that I had an opportunity to work very closely with as well when I was younger. And all 3 of those gentlemen just really kind of influenced me in different ways. And I'm hoping that, someone else might answer that same question one day and say, yeah, Marc Cohen was an influence on me in some way. Got it.
So Marc, if there was an employee starting at Hub tomorrow, and that employee had the dream of one day becoming the CEO of Hub, what advice would you give that employee to start their career off with?
Yeah, again, I think that the best advice I could give anyone in the company or in any company is, be in the moment, right? Like learn, absorb. Don't focus on, where you want to be in 5 years and 10 years and 20. I mean, it's great to have goals. Everyone should have goals. but I can honestly say to you, I never thought about my next promotion. I never thought about my next raise. I was just always a big believer that if you did the right thing, if you put your head down and worked, if you treated people the right way around you, if you contributed to the bottom line, that things would take care of itself, that the outcomes would be there. And that would be my advice to anyone who joined Hub, right?
Yeah.
Working in an organization like Hub, where you have a CEO that literally started at the bottom and worked their way up, you know, you don't need any better validation that it's possible.
That's incredible.
Right?
Yeah.
It's possible. And not only is it possible, but in a company that I'm going to lead, it's going to be something that we're going to look for. We're going to look for people that, you know, that are willing to put that hard work in and, you know, pay their dues and make their way up through the organization.
Yep. You're living proof. That's so cool. So Marc, are there any books that you would recommend, you know, a younger employee reading, or is there any books that you kind of base the philosophy of the way you approach business to? Is there anything that you would recommend to the listeners?
Yeah, you know, it's funny. There was a point in my career, I would say it was probably in my mid 30s to mid 40s, where all I did was read books. I mean, I read them all, and I was really interested in leadership books. So it was mostly biographies or autobiographies. You know, it was Sam Walton. I was always kind of interested in that whole retail kind of servicing element, or Jack Welch from a leadership standpoint. I've probably read all of his books, and there were many other people that, you know, that I've read their books. But unfortunately, what's happened is there is now just so much for me to read, because I need to be on top of things, not only insurance wise, but, you know, by the economy, the world.
Oh yeah.
That, you know, my time today is really spent, you know, reading, you know, trade journals, or, you know, the Wall Street Journal, or, you know, insurance rags, or other industry rags, or it's a lot more just trying to constantly keep up on a very fast changing world. So, you know, the time that I have to actually read books for pleasure are just not what they used to be. But having said that, I am glad that I did use about 10 years of reading books almost nonstop. I really enjoyed reading books about leadership.
And I think that is a perfect transition to Hub today. How would you describe Hub's culture at the current moment?
Yeah, you know, it's a question that I'm probably asked more than, you know, anything, you know, any other type of question about the Hub culture. And, you know, I'm asked about it all the time from various different people. So I'm asked by bankers, whether it's Goldman Sachs or it's Morgan Stanley. I'm asked by potential acquisition candidates. I'm asked by, you know, insurance companies. And one thing I could tell you is that Hub is actually renowned for its culture, and the fact that we put so much emphasis and focus on our culture. And one of the things that I always say about our culture is evolving, right? I mean, I think it's a mistake when a company creates a culture and then walks away from it and says that's our culture, and that becomes, you know, what you kind of stand by for any long period of time. Just as the world is evolving today, you know, probably faster than ever before, your culture has to evolve. So, you know, for years, words like entrepreneurship, part of our culture, you know, pay it forward, part of our culture, empathy, integrity, all of those things are, you know, so embedded in who we are. Being collaborative is part of the culture of the Hub organization, breaking down, you know, the walls between our offices, between countries, you know, to use a Jack Welch term, a boundaryless organization. You know, we model ourselves after being that, and that all becomes part of our culture. And then, and then as we've gone through COVID, I would add another kind of, you know, word to our culture, and that's grit. I mean, the resiliency that I have seen in our company over the last, you know, 5-6 months has been absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible what I've seen people do, not only for our clients, but for their fellow employees, it motivates me every day to be better than I was, because I want to be good enough for the people that work in this in this organization. So that grit is something that, Hub as a company has acquired almost 600 agencies in the past 20 years. And, we always knew, you have that base within your entire employee community, but it really comes out in time of crisis when times are tough, and you see that you've got, principals and partners of these agencies that all have gone through tough times, right? They've had to worry about payroll. They've had to worry about losing their largest account or their best employee.
Oh yeah.
Things that when you have 13,000 employees, you think about that stuff, but you've got so much bench strength in the company that it's not as critical as when you've got 20 people in your company or 15 people in your company. So now when you bring that mindset into a hub, and I've got 600 agency principals and their top teams of really kind of resilient, gritty professionals, it's come out very clearly to me, the backbone of this organization and the character that we have to be able to put us through this crisis. So, I am a huge culture person. We believe in it. We live it. We protect it. But I also believe that it has to evolve, that you cannot have a culture and you kind of set it and forget it.
I gotta say, I love that you're using the word evolve, because that's exactly why my brother and I named our cyber MGA Evolve, because not only was the market consistently evolving when it comes to cyber, but we wanted to make sure our company was continually evolving, and that cultural element is a huge part of it. But Marc, we have a lot of agency owners listening to the podcast, and I know Hub is big into mergers and acquisitions. If there was an agency owner listening and they were curious about the benefits of selling to Hub, what would you say to them?
Yeah, well, listen, I mean, right away, I think when you are an agency or a broker that sells to Hub, the resources and the tools and the expertise that become available to you multiply by what many of these agents currently have. So the ability to put teams around prospects and clients that include experts and specialists in pharmacy, environmental, in pretty much every possible cyber risk exposure that's out there, so that your clients get the very best in the industry, is something that we've seen all of our acquisitions take advantage of, and take advantage in a very kind of quick, in a quick way. In addition to the resources and the expertise and the specialization that we have, our relationships in the marketplace. I mean, we're coming to market with billions with an S of dollars of premium that allows us to, create proprietary product that we distribute throughout our organization. Whether it's in, some of our specialty groups like healthcare or real estate or hospitality or transportation or entertainment, all of our employees throughout the organization get access to each of those benefits as part of, as part of the company. And then, just using COVID as a perfect example. I mean, one of the things that, that we started to invest in 4 or 5 years ago was this whole concept of digital marketing, right? So, we knew that one day digital was going to, evolve, to use that word again, as a very important and critical way for brokers to be able to reach out to business owners, right? We didn't know that COVID was going to fast forward that in the way that it did, and that the the opportunity to physically meet people was going to basically go away. But our ability now to be able to put content out there, right, and attract business owners without having to actually meet with them, see them, network, and then draw them closer to our organization, because we're watching what they're reading, we're watching the content that they're requesting more of, and then design marketing strategies so that we continue, right, to bring to them what they're most interested in, right? While at the same time always drawing them closer and closer to the organization. And then once they're close, to be able to introduce them to a producer or to a resource or a specialist. That's really special, and that's not going to go away after COVID. And we think that's a real difference maker. And frankly, I think that's what's going to differentiate us from the thousands and tens of thousands of brokers across North America, both smaller and many of our size as well, is this whole digital capability that we now have, linking marketing and digital together to be able to draw, business owners to Hub.
So does Hub have an ideal agency demographic that they would like to acquire? Like, is there like a revenue size or employee count or some sort of metric that would determine like this agency would be a perfect fit to come into the Hub model?
Right. So we do between 60 and 70 acquisitions a year.
Okay.
And probably 70 to 75% of those are less than $5 million of revenue.
Okay.
So we do quite a number of small deals, but we're always underwriting, right? So we are selective in who we bring into the organization. We talk a lot about culture, so we don't want to bring in, firms that we think are going to take us backwards. We want to bring in firms that are going to be accretive to who we are and what we do. So we underwrite the leadership. We underwrite the organic growth of the agency, the sales strategies of the agency. But a lot of the firms that we buy are smaller. But then, there is a percentage that we do every year of firms that are 20 million of revenue plus. So we definitely run the gamut of firms from anywhere from $1 million to $100 million of revenue.
Got it.
And that's not to say we wouldn't do larger firms. We have done larger firms in the past, but that's really kind of the target zone for what we're looking to do.
Okay. So Marc, what is the future for Hub International?
Yeah, I mean, listen, the future of Hub is really quite bullish. We feel that we have built a foundation that supports our 2,000 producers by making 1 + 1 = 3, by being able to provide, as I said, the resources and the expertise. And we're seeing the results. I mean, year after year, we're having record-setting years in almost all metrics that insurance brokers are measured by. And we feel from an organic standpoint, our ability to communicate through the organization through this boundaryless, structure gives us the ability to reach out and make people, whether you're sitting in a, rural kind of suburban or urban territory, to make you the strongest possible partner in that territory. And we're seeing the wins. So we feel from an organic standpoint, the future of Hub is extremely positive, and then from an M&A standpoint, we see ourselves continuing to do 60 to 70 acquisitions a year, and continuing to bring in just really good professional leaders that have deep benches, that give us the ability to achieve that sustained success that I talked about earlier. So we are now about $2.5 billion of revenue, and we believe that by 2024 we will be in excess of $4 billion of revenue, just by doing our normal M&A and our organic growth. From an historical perspective, this company will continue to grow, and it will continue to grow in a way that will meet the needs of, clients in the future, whether it's from a risk management or a loss control or a technology standpoint. All of those are going to come into play, and we're actually investing in all of that today.
But Marc, before we jump off, is there any final messages you have for the audience, or anything you want to say about Hub, or anything that we didn't cover?
I don't think so. I would just like to thank you. Thank you for this opportunity to speak to your guests on this podcast. As I said, I think Hub is a fantastic company. It was a great company before I became the CEO. I'm hoping that when my final kind of book is written, and what this group has been able to contribute, and when I say this group, I mean my entire executive management team, the presidents of our different offices. I mean, there's just so many people that make up the leadership of Hub organization, and I just know they really deeply care about their clients, and they care about the people that work within the organization. And for you to give me this opportunity to express maybe what people might not know about Hub, right? I mean, we're not just a large organization. We are very much run like a family business, and I think that's really part of our secret sauce.
Well, it was a pleasure having you on, Marc. I know you're extremely busy. I know you typically don't have the time to sit down and to have these conversations and have these interviews. And so I can't thank you enough. I think your insight has been unbelievable in your story of, starting at that entry level and just putting the work in day after day after day. And then, you find yourself leading, a 12,000 person company is unbelievable. So I can't thank you enough for taking the time. I would love to, potentially have you on at another later date if, there's a conversation that we think would be valuable for the audience. And with that said, let's just wrap it up here. Thank you so much, Marc.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. I'll talk to you.